I came to a quiet countryside to recuperate because I wasn't feeling well. As I was trying to get my health back on track, I learned that something had happened to my wife. I was born and raised in the countryside and went to college in New York, where I met my current wife on a popular website at the time. Being the eldest of three siblings with a younger sister and the youngest, a brother, my sister got married in her 20s, causing my parents to worry about me still being unmarried. I was working for a foreign company in New York, a top choice for college students at the time. I was in the sales department, working on a project that had me dispatched to another company. My brother, who was in the same field, also lacked a girlfriend. One day, he signed up for a site and found my future wife. Bro, this lady looks really pretty. Try sending her a message. If it works out for you, I want to get a girlfriend too. The woman my brother found seemed very cheerful. With a nothing to lose mindset, I sent her a message. She replied the next day, and we started communicating, leading to a meetup the following week. A significant reason why I could marry my wife was that our homes were close. Her place was just 4 subway stops away from mine. On our first date, we ate pork cutlets, had coffee, and then watched a soccer game at a pub the next day. Though she seemed uninterested in soccer, she joined me to support my interests. She had a beautiful and bright personality, and we saw each other every day, leading to a proposal 100 days into our relationship. She nodded silently when I proposed, and we told our parents we were dating and wanted a future together. The following spring, we got married with many blessings. I have a significant wound from when I was young, due to my father's harsh actions, causing many scars. Sometimes, when I'm sleep deprived or extremely tired, I lose consciousness, but medical checkups show nothing wrong, and I'm quite athletic. On the morning of our wedding, the makeup artist told me about a previous client whose husband fainted during family photos. My wife was shocked, asking what that meant. He hid his illness, and the tension made him collapse, the artist explained. What happened to them? My wife inquired. They came to pick up their album and said their family was furious, wanting a divorce. But what can you do? They're living well now, the artist replied. Hearing this made me inwardly flinch, feeling a connection to their pain. I've been happy since getting married. My wife whispered her love, saying, I wish I had met you earlier, so we could have dated for years. Meeting someone like you is my luck. Let's live like newlyweds forever. Initially, it wasn't easy to spend the allowance my wife gave me. I kept my wallet with me, picking up my wife's favorite fruits on my way home. Life felt like playing house. My wife had a demanding job, while mine was just a 5-minute drive from home. She had to commute an hour by subway. Her earnest efforts in balancing work and managing our household endeared her to me even more. Despite my love for exercise, I've never been as physically strong as others, often staying up late for my hobbies. One day, we discovered my wife was pregnant, and I was thrilled at the thought of becoming a father. However, she miscarried at 12 weeks, and her bright demeanor faded. I suggested over dinner at her favorite restaurant that perhaps the loss was due to the strain of her job on top of pregnancy. I told her, it might be tough, but you can quit your job if it becomes too much. You know I can take care of us. She decided to wait and see. 3 months later, she was pregnant again and chose to leave her job to protect this pregnancy. Carefully, we made it past the critical 12 weeks. and our baby grew healthy. We welcomed our daughter first, followed by our son the next year, becoming parents to two children born close together. Life was a whirlwind with hardly any restful nights. Elderly advice suggested that raising children close in age might be tough initially, but easier later on. Until the kids were 4, I hardly remember how we managed. There was even a time we had to hospitalize them due to high fevers. Luckily, living in the same apartment complex as my in-laws, their help was invaluable. With the kids, my wife hardly met friends outside instead. She'd invite them over for delivery food and playdates. My career advanced, requiring more of my time, sometimes even on weekends. As the kids started elementary school, my wife began meeting friends for morning exercises or learning new skills at cultural centers. She created an online community to share and gift her crafts. However, when our children were in lower elementary, I started experiencing health issues, leading to frequent collapses and a diagnosis of autoimmune hepatitis. Despite the medication, my health didn't improve. The desire to fulfill my role as a provider was strong, but physically, I was struggling. Eventually, I suggested to my wife that we take some time off near my parents' place to recover. She agreed to discuss it with my parents. We decided to leave our children with my in-laws and move to a rental home 20 minutes from my parents for convalescence. It wasn't a severe illness, but the need for early recovery was clear. Thus, we began our unexpected journey to recovery. You've really been through a lot, taking care of me and preparing for this retreat, I said. What are you talking about? Your health is the most important thing. There's nothing I can't do once you're better. Yeah, I really owe you one. Meeting someone like you was like hitting the jackpot, he said. Let's head down and take a good rest. We've been running forward nonstop, she replied, and that's how their life in the countryside began. Thanks to his frugal wife's wise investments, they had some savings. This allowed them to lease a place where he could start learning woodworking, something he had always wanted to do, and even buy some materials. With a yard at their disposal, they could work on their projects without worrying about noise. His wife constantly reminded him not to overdo it, and they took daily walks around the house and got plenty of sleep. He, having always been handy, fell in love with the charm of woodworking and began creating pieces one by one. His wife started selling crafts she learned to make at the community center online. Luckily, former executives from his company who had resigned offered him work so he could also have a side job. Although their income wasn't what it used to be, it was enough to indulge in their wants and buy materials. Enjoying the freedom to work at their own pace without the pressure of commuting was a blessing, and he felt his health improving. His city-born wife missed the bustling city life despite the poor air quality, but she enjoyed living in the countryside too. There were many abandoned houses near their home, and a few elderly women in their 80s and 90s. Greeting these seniors during their walks made them naturally share their story, allowing them to feel the warmth of the countryside. One morning, while they were eating, an elderly lady called out, "Hey, young dad, come out. I've brought some potato soup for a snack. I picked some doragi. It's good for your health," another added. These seniors looked after the couple, attentively, prompting them to buy protein drinks for them in gratitude. Then one day, a young man moved into the house across from them. The house had been occupied by a couple who moved to the city to help their son with his children. The new neighbor, a tall and handsome man, said living in the countryside was on his bucket list, and he wanted to experience it before getting married. Despite the convenience of city life, he felt it was now or never. He was a sports massage therapist and never short of work due to referrals. His wife, always keen on learning new things, suggested he try getting a massage from the man after receiving a sports massage. He had the best sleep since moving to the countryside. His wife began visiting the man's house regularly to learn massage techniques. He also taught them lymphatic massage. Every night, she would give him a lymphatic massage, ensuring a good night's sleep. However, he started noticing changes in his wife. She hadn't worn makeup since moving, but she did when visiting the neighbor. He brushed it off, thinking she just wanted to wear makeup occasionally, a mistake on his part. His wife had been giving him nightly massages before visiting the neighbor. He felt like he had been hit with a hammer when he learned about his wife's outings from Elawan, an elderly lady who often brought them snacks. He had once accompanied Elawan to the market and briefly chatted. She walked at 9 p.m., sometimes with other ladies from the community center, sometimes alone, fearless despite the lack of streetlights in the rural area. Concerned for her safety, he had suggested she exercise in her yard instead. Laughing, she had replied, "What business would an old lady like me have? A short walk helps me sleep well." That morning, Grandma Elawan showed up at our doorstep. "My wife had just stepped out. Don't be startled, but a few days ago, while taking a walk, I saw your wife entering the house across the street. Was she bringing them some side dishes at night?" I didn't think much of it, completed my walk. And when I passed by again, I could hear laughter coming from inside, standing quietly in front of the house. Elawan could clearly make out that it was indeed my wife's voice leaking from inside. I was infuriated to realize I had been asleep, unaware that my wife had gone out. I wanted to confront my wife, but it wasn't possible. She usually put me to bed at 9 p.m., and I had set an alarm for that. Right at 9, she would start giving me a lymphatic drainage massage, and I'd fall asleep immediately. The alarm was set for 9:10 p.m. Waking to the alarm, I found my wife was already out. The front door of the neighbor's house was firmly shut, but I could hear voices inside. My wife was sighing, "It feels so good," and she didn't return home until 1 a.m. She went to the neighbor's house every night. It wasn't right for a wife to leave her husband asleep and go out, and I began to wonder whether I should forgive her or if it was time to reassess our marriage. Elawan happened to pass by, so I greeted her, and she asked if I could pick up some soap and detergent from the store if I was going. My wife had left for the market that morning. I invited Grandma inside and discussed what she had witnessed, questioning what I should do next. Do what feels right. If you can think of it as a passing breeze and let it go, do that. Divorce isn't easy. Think about the kids, she advised. She shared how her husband had affairs, and despite the heartache, she chose to stay for the sake of their children. But when he passed away, she felt nothing. Living here had improved my physical health, and I felt it was time to move to New York. I had an interview for a job reentry last weekend and was waiting to hear back. Grandma thanked me for sharing, mentioning, "After the old man went to heaven, I sometimes miss him. Maybe that's what marriage is." We spent that day together. Afterward, Grandma visited our home a few times. Eventually, My wife and I harbored significant secrets while living in the countryside. Then, I received the job offer. Packing for the move, Grandma Elowen gifted me a bottle of homemade plum extract, whispering, "I've put a note inside for you to read alone." It read, "Thank you for making me feel like a woman. Take care of yourself." I made a serving cart for Elowen, tailored for her bent back, as a token of my appreciation for helping me understand my wife's actions and deciding what to do next. Now in New York, amidst the bustling life, I occasionally miss our life in the countryside.